introduce the panel, and we're going to introduce an artist a little bit later that's going to be part of this discussion. At PwC, when we kick off conversations like this, we have been on a journey for the last few years, and what we call leadership in action. We worked with Brene Brown, and she does a 2-word check-in when she kicks off her conversations, and we're doing that too. So if you could introduce yourselves with a 2-word check-in on how you're feeling about this panel, this discussion, the conference, and tell us about yourself.
My name's Liz Powers. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ArtLifting. And when Brian brought up the 2 words, the first things I thought of were dance moves. Thank you all for such a wonderful night.
Hi, I'm Joanna Toller. So my day job that I get paid for is I'm the space design and construction manager for Amegy Bank. Why I'm sitting up here today is as a member of Kamiko Green, and we have a few other members here. And we are a community of facility owners and managers who really, really, really want to stop throwing furniture in the landfill.
What's your 2-word check-in?
Oh, I forgot about that. Connected and comforted. So I feel connected, of course, with all these people, and then comforted because we have some of the same problems, and it made me feel better about it. I don't know if that's a good thing, but
I think we're on the same vibe. I was going to say my 2-word check-in is affirmed, because I'm hearing a lot of the same things that I've gone through and decisions that have been made, and I'm also intrigued. I'm intrigued by some of the things that I've learned from the panelists and from going to the session. So I'm feeling affirmed and intrigued. And I am Brian Parker. I'm Director of Workplace Strategy and Design for PwC in the United States, and have had the pleasure of working with these folks now for a couple weeks to get this panel going, and thrilled to be here. So real quick, this is really going to be the briefest introduction about ESG, right? So we all know what ESG is, and hopefully you do. But it's a set of criteria really about business behavior, how it's impacting the environment, how it is interacting with people and the society around them, and how they're doing their governance. And we know at PwC, we offer those ESG strategies. We offer the ability to score, mark, track your ESG. But we also know, I think everybody in the room, there's really been no clear understanding of what the heck we're supposed to be doing. And a few years ago at PwC, when we saw ESG was coming on board, we took the lead to do our own, since we're going to invest in some of this, and put out our own sort of goals. And one of those goals was a purpose and inclusion goal, that 40% of our reportable spend will be with underrepresented and minority-owned businesses. And I clinged on to that in my real estate world and said, I'm going to start applying that to some of the things that we do. And we were looking at the paths that we all have as individuals to go in and say, how can I contribute to the firm's wider goal? They're not asking me to do this. I'm just going to help them. And one of the things I did is said, going forward, ArtLifting would receive at least 40% of our spend on corporate art. And that was one of the ways we achieved those goals. So the other thing that about ESG real quick is it's hard to tell the story. It's like, we usually talk about carbon and green gas and greenhouse gas and all that. Today we want to talk about humanizing it and bringing it down to that storytelling that we as professionals within our organization can tell a story to our leadership and say, here's how we are helping contribute to some of these ESG goals. So I want to start with Liz. What does humanizing ESG mean to you?
Well, first of all, shout out to Brian for his leadership of supporting, for everyone who doesn't know, ArtLifting champions artists who are experiencing housing insecurity or disabilities. So Brian's leadership was saying at least 40% of our spend with these artists has been completely life-changing.
And by the way, we did 100% spend on our Miami office and our Pittsburgh refresh recently, so 100% of it came from them.
Yeah, to me, humanizing ESG means not just check boxes of saying like, okay, we're hitting these metrics that we need to hit, but being intentional. When Vince said yesterday during the Meow Wolf presentation about creating a vibe, creating a space where people want to be, where not just they want to take photos, but it's a warm, inviting space that leads to conversations and innovation. That's our goal as well. Just to give you a quick founding story of ArtLifting, I used to be a social worker from 2006 to 2010, and obviously that was the last recession. I had so many clients tell me, Liz, I want a job, an opportunity, not a handout. And I just felt like banging my head against the wall because some clients, we literally applied to 100 jobs and they were lucky when they got a rejection because at least that was a response. So with ArtLifting, I had this idea in my mind of how can I expand the definition of a job to include more people in the economy. Didn't know how to do that, just had that question in the back of my head for years. And when I was switched roles to be a full-time art therapist in homeless shelters, that's when everything clicked. So I saw really saleable work that was literally stuffed in the closets of the 2 shelters where I worked. So 10 years ago, on November 29th, so our anniversary is coming up, we started ArtLifting, and from that seed of an idea, we started with just 4 artists in Boston, 4,000 of our savings, and we've expanded, thanks to the help of many people in this room, to sell tens of millions of dollars of work, with the majority of the profit going to the artists. And obviously, it's also extremely helpful to our clients to be able to see the specific people that your companies are impacting. I want to give 2 quick anecdotes. One is Mia Brown. She created this piece. Brett, who's presenting after us from LinkedIn, was a huge champion of hers and many ArtLifting artists. Her work has been transformed into wall coverings, sold to Warner Media headquarters, sold all over the world. What's really interesting is the way she creates her work. So Mia has cerebral palsy and uses what she calls a magic wand. So she creates all of her work with her head. And it's been incredible to get her work out there, but also hear from clients the impact of having the plaque next to her work with her photo and her quote. Because when your employees or customers are having a bad day and then they look up at Mia's work and they say, well, plan A didn't work for her of painting with her hands, but she innovated and continued to create. One other artist who happens to also have cerebral palsy that we work with is named Eric Santamaria. Do you notice anything funky in this piece? Feel free to call out. Exactly, yeah. So if you zoom in, you'll notice there are tire marks on the bottom of this piece. Like Mia, Eric can't paint with his hand. But unlike Mia, he doesn't have the neck strength to paint with a magic wand. So I was just blown away when I met him and saw him work with the canvas on the ground. Depending on the day, he uses either paintbrushes or markers on his pieces. And he's just been like a shooting star. If any of you get Pottery Barn's catalog, you saw a huge spread on Eric a few months ago. But he's blown up thanks to all of your support. We're really grateful for having the opportunity to not only champion our artists, but help you all create warm, inviting spaces for your client or customers and employees.
That's great. Joanne, why do you think humanizing ESG is important?
Well, my picture is a lot more depressing than yours. Sorry, because it's not as nice to look at, but that is why I'm here. So, well, I was a Girl Scout growing up, and so I learned very early to leave places better than I found them. And I think as an industry, a lot of us share the thought that we have a responsibility to be good stewards of the land that we own, the spaces we occupy, and the people that are in those spaces. And so with ESG has real requirements. You know, we have things that we have to do, and then more importantly, there's a human aspect of it. And so I think what you're doing is really interesting from that human aspect of it. And those things are important because we're in those communities as well. So thinking about a bank, which I buy art for, is the idea that I can buy art from the community and in the community that needs it and put it in my space, that's a win for everybody. It's a win for our ESG score. It's a win for our PR. I mean, that's fantastic PR,
Yeah.
and a win for the communities as well. And so I think one thing that I think about a lot is how to build the business case for doing what's right. And that's what you're doing, is building the business case for what's right. And if we can do that, some of the efforts that are the more human side that, make us feel good and make our employees feel good can become a lot easier.
Let's double down or dive into that double down. We all do these phrases, right? So there's another bingo check for you. So tell me about what either ArtLifting or Kimco Green, what innovative, creative ways or approaches have you done or can you offer to organizations like all of us that are here to help us not only achieve some ESG goals, but really to tell that story and humanize what we're doing as corporate real estate workplace designers?
Well, I think one thing that's a challenge with that is we are all constrained by our organizations. So all of us only have a certain amount of things we can do within our organizations. And then on our roles, we sometimes have, some leeway that we can play with. But we're always going to be constrained by those ideas too. And so for us, some of us, I'm at a small organization, and some of us are at big organizations that have real resources and funds behind this effort. And so if you're in an organization that doesn't, and you want to try to champion some of these things, it's really kind of thinking about how to build the business case, and then community is really important too. And so when I think about the business case, an example is we have beehives on the top of our garages, urban beehives. And I mean, you should have seen our CEO's face when we said we want to put bees up there. And how we built that business case was that we're landlords in the building, and so it's a tenant amenity. And it is the most talked about tenant amenity we have in our building. And so that's how we were kind of able to make that leap a little bit. And then also community. So with Kimco Green, I'm a little guy, so I don't have any resources to figure out how to not throw furniture in the landfill. 17 billion pounds goes in every year. And when we were talking earlier about empty real estate, that real estate's full of furniture, and it's going to go in the landfill. But there's a lot of people in the community that need it. And so we're trying to kind of make that connection, and how do I get my furniture into those hands? And so I'm not going to be able to figure out my own. And as we talked to everybody and Kimco started, we realized all of us have that problem. And so we've been able to come together and share our ideas, because none of us have any competitive advantage if we don't throw away furniture. And so why not help each other? And so I think really kind of, we always say this, just one thing. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, just think about one thing you can do differently on the next project.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's great. Liz, how about you? What kind of innovative things or approaches have you done or can you do to help people humanize ESG?
One of the most popular things since COVID that are the products that our clients have wanted is getting the chance to rent artwork. Obviously, you all want the flexibility of, you don't know what your portfolio is going to, oops, can you all hear me? Great. You all don't know what your portfolio will necessarily look like in 5 years. We've also seen not only wanting the flexibility, but also wanting to support and represent the diversity of your employees. So one of our clients just purchased a rental program of $3 million for one building to show the importance of making their values of diversity visible. And every quarter, they're going to switch off representing a different ERG. Just wanted to show you a couple of visuals to bring this to life. This is different than what I was just talking about, different deal, but this is Google's LA office with a rental program. I love this piece. I know Verizon is at this conference. This is in one of Verizon's Texas offices. Yvette, the artist, wanted to have a camo dress to match her mural. This is a really innovative piece. It was a commission for Google's accessibility office. They wanted artwork that people who are blind could experience. So Alan Chamberlain's the artist behind this, made a multi-dimensional piece. Not only is it amazing to feel, but also there's this Easter egg message in Braille along the bottom edge of the frame. I know Rapid7's also here. They've been a great supporter of us. Uh, Alan Chamberlain's the same map artist, happens to use a wheelchair, so he can't create a 60-foot mural. But the way he did it was this original piece was 30 inches. He just uses an X-Acto knife and a sheet of paper. So I'm from Boston, so I naturally noticed this is the map of Boston. This is for Rapid7's Boston headquarters. But he just used an X-Acto knife, and when you held up the white paper, it almost looks like a piece of lace. So it's been incredible for the Rapid7 employees over the years to learn Alan's story, and he even spoke with the CEO there. This is a rendering. It doesn't exist yet, but I want it to. So hard pitch to you all. The artist behind this piece is Lisa Murphy. She's a Black woman and is annoyed that there are so few portraits of Black women. So the way she creates her portraits to represent that lack of representation is just to create the edges of women. And we thought, how cool would it be to take Lisa's pieces and not just have them on the back of phone booths, but also have the portrait part engraved in the glass. So I can't wait to make that happen with you all. Just so you have some visuals. So each piece comes with the artist's story. If the artist is verbal, comes with a quote in addition to their bio, and also the overall impact story. One more visual before we bring on incredible Kiana Madison. We're really part of this partnership with Bank of America. Their president announced publicly a couple months ago that they're expanding our partnership to 2,500 of their banks by 2026. So we're just thrilled to keep growing and look forward to working with you all.
That's great. Yeah, so as Liz said, there is no better way to talk about humanizing ESG than to actually talk to the people that and hear their stories who are changed by decisions that we can make, right? And the way that we can support things. So I want to invite to the stage Kiana Madison. She is an artist, a healing arts facilitator, a Buddhist pastoral care mentor. She is represented by ArtLifting, and her works have been sold across the world, including in PwC Miami. And she is here to tell her story with us about what it means to be part of the ArtLifting community and how your work is impacted by decisions that we make in corporate real estate.
Yeah, thank you. So to start off, I want to share about my journey becoming an artist, because I've actually had several of you ask me why I've been here. Oh, have you done art always? And I'm like, no, this is very new. So I want to take you through that story. So my artist journey began with a life-threatening health situation and the sudden onset of life-changing chronic illnesses. So in 2015, I began having symptoms that are associated with breast, ovarian, and uterine cancers. And I learned that I had 3 different gene mutations that made me high risk for developing aggressive breast and ovarian cancer. And since I already had a health history of removing precancerous growths and having a family history where nearly every woman on my mother's side of the family had had breast cancer, my specialist determined that I needed to undergo emergency cancer previvor treatments. So at the time, I underwent an emergency double mastectomy, a hysterectomy, and an oophorectomy, and breast reconstruction. And although the initial surgeries were successful, I experienced a host of complications. So first I had necrosis that happened after the double mastectomies. Then I had a very rare surgical complication. It's a 0.01% chance for this complication, and it happened to me, where 3 months after the emergency hysterectomy, The internal surgical site spontaneously opened up, and I began to have my organs shift and my bowels to come out. And when this was happening for me, I was by myself, and all I noticed was a raging river of blood coming down my legs. And it was so much so that I was very aware that, oh, I'm going to die. I am losing all my blood. I was absolutely terrified when this happened, and I had collapsed. And when EMTs found me in a pool of my own blood, lifeless, they thought I was dead. And during this time, I had this extraordinary out of body experience where I could see myself not moving. I could hear the EMTs saying that they arrived too late. And at the same time, I had this incredible experience of what I call light beings. I think other people, depending on your belief system, would say angels. But having this experience of not being alone, being told it's going to be okay, and that it was not my time, and I was going back into my body. So back into my body I went, and the EMTs were able to miraculously keep me alive for the 45 minutes through Denver traffic to get me to the one and only medical facility that was going to be able to handle the complexity of what was happening in my body. Arrived there, and an amazing team of emergency room doctors, oncologists, and other specialists were able to perform life saving surgery. So it is an absolute miracle that I'm even still here today after that happened. But despite being able to heal from that and having the life saving surgery, my general health just continued to get worse. And, before all this happened, I was in the middle of my PhD program. 60-hour weeks were typical for graduate students. I had been an educator for over 15 years, living in New York City, in Shanghai, China. And so this was really different for my body to have these symptoms where I had chronic pain happening throughout my entire body all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I had overwhelming fatigue where the simple act of getting out of bed, taking a shower, walking up a set of steps would take most of my energy. And I still have those issues today because they're incurable. So eventually I learned that I was diagnosed with multiple autoimmune diseases and fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. And all the specialists that I saw told me that there's nothing that they can do to heal these conditions. And then I learned on top of it, I had a heart complication that was happening due to some of the other surgeries. And so my doctors told me that I had a 7 to 9 year life expectancy, and that was about a little over 7 years ago that I was told that. So all this was happening. My mental health was devastated. I was very depressed. I became suicidal from the amount of pain that I was physically in. And I was really traumatized by what was happening to my body. When we think about disabilities, a lot of times we only imagine folks who are just born with different disabilities. We don't realize that any one of us can have a health situation that can radically change how our body and health landscape is. And so when this all happened, I was dealing with a lot of medical debt, about $500,000 of medical debt, and it made me financially destitute. And I had to drop out of my program. I couldn't work, and then I became homeless. So this was probably one of the darkest periods of my life in terms of everything that was happening. But eventually, over a series of years, I was able to start rebuilding my life. And that's when I discovered the power of the arts in the ways that it can nourish well being for folks on a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and communal level. And when I say the arts, I think of it broadly. So, art making for me and arts experiences and looking at artwork really became an essential ingredient in my recovery journey, in my healing, in my ability to cope. For those of you who are not familiar, there is some amazing research that is happening in the fields of psychology and neuroscience on the impact of art and art looking and how it can help lower blood pressure. It can reduce stress. It can boost mood and help your brain reduce chemicals like serotonin and dopamine to make you feel better. And I was experiencing that. So the more I was around art, I started to make art. I had never made art before, really, except for maybe kindergarten. And I found myself feeling good. I found myself being able to learn how to cope with these new disabilities. And then eventually I discovered this like transmutation of joy that I was feeling through making the art and sharing it with others in the world. So as I shared that artwork, eventually I had people interested in wanting to buy the art. And I recognized that, wow, I think I can turn this into a career pathway for me because I can't do any of the jobs that I trained for, that I had multiple degrees in. Most jobs are not designed for people with disabilities of different kinds. And so I thought, art doesn't hurt my body. I can do this and I can have an impact on people. So the more that I put it out there, I heard people responding about how they love the messages behind my art because my art's meditation. And eventually, ArtLifting discovered me. And through their incredible support, I've been able to have an outreach and an impact of my art on levels that I never imagined. So my art is in over 300 locations throughout with Bank of America. Goldman Sachs, Google have all acquired my art pieces.
PwC.
PwC, yeah, as you can see back here. And it's made an extraordinary impact for me as an artist with income, being able to help support myself with just basic living expenses, such as paying my mortgage for my home with Habitat for Humanity, or paying for my ongoing medical expenses that I have to this day. But also, it's increased my credibility as an artist, where that's led to other opportunities from the community to be able to uplift me. And then art lifting, not just for myself, but for all the artists they represent. They invest in us, they support us to grow. And so it's been an incredible experience, and it's allowed me to grow as an artist with my impact and to grow in my work as like an arts advocate and healing arts facilitator, wanting to support other folks with experiencing the different benefits of the arts. So I hope that as you contemplate the different ways that you could potentially partner with ArtLifting and my art, I'm just going to put a plug in there, but there's many amazing artists. I hope that you consider thinking about, as you reimagine workspaces, how it's not just having the art there that can make it beautiful, but for some of your colleagues, your team members, your clients that come in the building, that they might be able to really deeply connect and get some of the other benefits of the health benefits, or being able to talk and connect with each other over these art pieces. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story.
I love what you said about how your art impacts people, because it does. And that is one of the great things about art lifting and some of the other aspects that we do with this. So you don't know, maybe you do know this or don't know this, but um, first of all, I love hearing that story. That has made it even more precious to me that she's going to be my new best friend. She doesn't know it yet, but she is. Uh, uh, and I shared with her, I told her I do music prescriptions is what I call them. There's songs that come along. I'm music. And today I gave her a song. After hearing that story, it's your song. You stick with that song. Some of Us Are Brave is the name of the song. But what I wanted to say is, I wish you could see the reactions of the people when they see art in our offices now, especially when they read the bios. What amazes me, many of you are probably in the same role where you come in, you're designing your office, and you're there for that sort of lead up cutover weekend, and construction crews still there doing tidying up, and furniture installers. I have never seen those type of people stop in a corporate office to admire art until we started using ArtLifting's art. And they engage in conversation. Then our people do the same thing. They grab them and bring them over. And it opens up that possibility then to talk about differences, to talk about mental health, to talk about disabilities in a whole new way that is unbelievable. So thank you for how you are impacting us with your art, and how it just, thank you.
You're welcome. And one thing I just want to add to is how I think the power of the arts to activate imagination. You know, if we don't activate our imagination and creativity, regardless if you identify as an artist or not, it's hard to envision new possibilities. But if you do activate that, it can also help your people feel more hope, and to not underestimate the ways that looking at an art piece might actually help inspire some of your colleagues or yourselves with just activating creativity that
Right.
can then change and transform into innovative thinking and creative solutions.
Yeah, real quick, not to do another huge plug for us, but this is not my mother's PwC office anymore, right? When you look at an office like this, this mural is 12 feet high and spans probably 150 feet around a wall. And, that is much different than what we were doing when I first started with PwC, where, we were raving if you had an art piece this big. And the oohs, the ahs, the wows, the energy that brings just walking into the office is something spectacular. So we got a few minutes left. I want to sort of wrap it up with, I think we'll skip that one, but let's wrap it up with a couple rapid fire sort of things for all of you. So the first question is going to be, what's the most interesting part or point of this conversation or today in any of the panels that you heard that you're taking away from this today?
For me, it was yesterday's presentation just before lunch, talking about how the dream is a sense of belonging, and how can we work together to create that, so people we're not just forcing butts in seats, but creating that community and the meal trains when someone's sick, and that sense.
Really, for me, it's hearing all the talks about being connected in community, and that's really what this is that we're at today, and this is what art lifting, uplifting is, and what Kamiko Green is, and talk with art lifting. I'm thinking about if you can put art in a bank branch, or I can donate all the furniture from a bank branch to a local school or things like that. That is a real ESG goal. That one, it improves your ESG score, and that is fantastic marketing. And so there's a real financial benefit to it.
For myself, as I've been attending sessions, I've been listening and reflecting on the call for belonging within spaces, but also wanting to nourish well-being in your colleagues and your clients. When you think about creating spaces for people to connect in, and since I am an artist, I was taking notes on what type of artwork could I create that can help support a space with having those type of conversations, with creating that energy that makes people want to be there. And so I left thinking a lot about that and going, all right, here's a call to action for myself for art that I would like to create for some of your spaces to help support in that, especially with getting feedback from your people when you're doing those dynamic conversations to involve folks to all share out about what they need. I'm curious on what do they need and want in terms of art in the space, so can do a call of action of creating for it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I'm aligned with you on what is drawn to me is I'm seeing the connection between some of the panels we had, this conversation, and there is that need and that understanding and that growth of the impact that we as workplace designers can have by bringing things in that we didn't think of before and doing things a little bit different than we'd ever done before, and that really humanizing back to the office and everything else. That is what people are desperate for. They're more desperate for that than anything else, is to humanize it. So that's fantastic. Two real quick questions for each of you. Where are you going to be after this panel discussion if people want to talk to you? And what's your favorite way to be contacted? LinkedIn, email?
We'll be up here for a while, so come open your checkbooks. Um, how could you not? Just want to plug Kiana one more time. She didn't share. We launched a partnership with Hallmark this year.
Right.
And she was the cover girl. There's like a 3-minute video with her and Hallmark, so I'd be happy to share that with you all. In terms of how to contact me, you can just email me. It's just liz@artlifting.com.
She's like Cher. It's known as Liz.
Well, I'll be here and at lunch, and you can find me on LinkedIn and also join Kamiko Green on LinkedIn. We have monthly roundtables that are only for facilities owners and managers, and we get together and we figure out how we're going to keep furniture out of the landfill.
Right. For myself, I'll be up here. I have a profile on ArtLifting's website, but you can also email me at kiana@kianamadison.com. For those of you who prefer texting as your way of accessibility, I'm also happy to share my phone number.
That's great. And you can feel free to email me or find me on LinkedIn. And then if you really want to talk to me, try to find my phone number and text me, because I'm just one of those people that, as Jason knows, you'll have to email me 20 times before I respond to you.
I'm on LinkedIn
I'm
too.
honest.
I forgot that.
So
Always
with that,
responds right away to me.
yeah. So with that, I do want to thank everyone. I want to thank the panel here. I want to thank the audience for you guys all staying here and listening to this. I hope you enjoyed that. I want to thank WorkSpaces for inviting us to be part of that conversation, and really appreciate that opportunity once again. And we would be remiss if we did not thank the Muppet Company for the rug that we are all so much enjoying.
It actually used to be the Cookie Monster. So.
I was worried. I was
No,
worried. I
joke,
was worried.
joke, yeah.
It looks like he got bleached a little bit. It's like the bath rug that went wrong. But I love it. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.